All right, coming to you live from the Open Source Summit here in Austin, Texas. I'm here with Jonathan Rickard. Jonathan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So you work at Red Hat, and what do you do there?
I'm a principal software engineer on the validated patterns team.
Oh, cool. So as we were talking about before, if somebody was new to DevOps and they were trying to figure out how to get started, what would be some of the advice you'd give them as far as look at this first or make sure you don't do that?
Yeah, definitely. It's all about, look, there's a lot of blogs out there on DevOps and, the tools that you can use to implement DevOps in your organization or at least get into it. I think the one thing is don't get too focused on trying to learn infrastructure versus coding. Just try and, do what's comfortable for you and then go and excel at that because you're going to end up picking up both overall.
And so have you seen mistakes that people have made? Is it along the lines of what you're talking about, or is there other things that where people fall down or when it doesn't necessarily work well?
Yeah, at the individual level, it comes down to trying to boil the ocean. From an organization, it comes down to lack of commitment on somewhere in the management pipeline somewhere.
And so what would you say are the key features of DevOps? So if I said, hey, what is DevOps?
So DevOps is really more like it's a culture, right? It's essentially saying dev and ops teams are going to work together and we're going to try and get our product out faster with less errors. And instead of playing the blame game with each other, we're really just trying to be one cohesive team and make things happen.
Cool. And so OpenShift, that's one of your big products right in the smack in the middle of it. Can you tell people who aren't familiar with OpenShift what it is and what it does, why you want to use it?
Yeah, so OpenShift is Kubernetes. It's just an enterprise-grade Kubernetes. We provide a lot of resources to make the overall day two operations of managing Kubernetes easier. From an application developer, we have a lot of tools like source to image, image streams, build configs, and things like that that are built into the product that help you build your application better and faster and get it essentially out much quicker.
So would you refer to it as a Kubernetes distro the same way that you'd say Red Hat is a distro of Linux, or how would you look at it?
I would say it's enterprise Kubernetes, right? Not necessarily. I guess it is a distribution of Kubernetes, but it's really just enterprise Kubernetes. It's Kubernetes plus.
And so if a company's trying to adopt OpenShift, what would be the things you'd tell them to be careful of this, or make sure you have this ready when you start?
Yeah, it's all about ensuring that your infrastructure is ready for the environment. So we'll need, networking, we'll need storage, we'll need compute resources and stuff like that. I think that's a big thing that people kind of struggle with, especially if they're doing on-prem bare metal or VMware. They don't really account for the capacity that they need.
And so what kind of skills do you need to adopt it? Because Kubernetes by itself is not very easy to deal with. You have to be pretty smart and pretty technical in that area. So what skills do you need?
Yeah, from an infrastructure perspective, it's the same kind of deal. Like you still need some Kubernetes skills, but like we abstract a lot of the Kubernetes configuration away from the user and the administrator. So it's really just the ability to troubleshoot, knowing just understanding logical diagrams and workflows. From an application developer, it's same, right? So how do I deploy my code today? And then how do I convert that code from a monolithic application into a microservice and then deploy it?
So if the application developers are the ones using it, who are the people who are managing it and standing it up?
Yep, that's your infrastructure administrators, so your OpenShift admins.
Okay, cool. And then now if we shift over to GitOps, what is GitOps? It's a new word that we've all been hearing, but probably a lot of people have heard a lot of different definitions. How would you describe it?
Yeah, my personal opinion on GitOps is it's not really my personal opinion, but it's essentially your entire state of your application and your infrastructure is managed in Git.
So then how does that differ from what people, if you're normally doing DevOps, what would you say is the main difference?
Yeah, DevOps is it's a culture change, right? So DevOps is all about the tooling and making sure that you're doing everything cohesively and stuff like that. And then GitOps is making sure that when I develop an application or if I'm doing infrastructure as code, I have all of that managed in Git, and I'm letting Git and then whatever my CD tool is, so Argo CD or Flux, manage the state.
So is it basically combining or putting an abstraction layer over a key part of the tool chain?
Yes and no. DevOps tools are more, like CI, so getting the code in, where GitOps is more of like the CD aspect of it. So, you're writing, you're getting it out, you're getting it into Git, and you're letting Git push it out. you're letting your CD tool push out like an Argo or Flux, and then really it's just deploying the code and then doing a reconciliation loop to make sure that the state as desired is what is out there.
So then people using GitOps, do they need new skills, or is it actually easier so you don't need as much skills?
Yeah, I think like you can still utilize a lot of the same skills that you have. There's new tools out there that you can use to make that delivery aspect of it a little bit easier. But the barrier for entry is pretty low on them, and there's a lot of great documentation, especially with Argo CD and Flux. There's just the community behind both of those is really outstanding.
Cool. And then you talked about GitOps for the edge. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so right now we're doing a big push for edge deployments of applications. So my team in particular is we're doing validated patterns, and so things like X-rays and industrial type communities where they have these applications that are sitting out. You have a hub data center, and then you have a factory, which would be an edge, or you have a medical facility, say a hospital or like a clinic, and they're taking operations at the edge, and we're actually deploying those apps there and essentially letting them run some of their workloads closer to them and then pushing them back up to their data center for larger distributions.
And so how far out can it go? Does it go can it go to sensors, or is it devices, or how does it make that handoff then, or picking it up from there?
Yeah, so for our industrial edge, it's at the sensor level, so we're able to detect anomaly changes in the sensor. We're able to detect temperature changes and stuff like that, and then feed that back up to our data center.
So are there, because I remember at least in the past, there's just a lot of standards that too many standards. So how do they connect them with the sensors or the other endpoints out there?
Yeah, there's a lot of integration. So like some of the things that we're using, especially on the industrial edge stuff, is like a CamelK integration. So it'll take the sensor data and it'll push it back up.
Cool. And so anything else that people should be looking out for as we're looking going forward, the new technology or the new cultural shift, or what would you say?
Yeah, I think right now the hotness right now is the edge, is getting things to the edge and working at the edge, and then we were talking before DevSecOps, so security in general. It's really becoming a first-class citizen plus, right? Like there's a lot of information and a lot of resources around ensuring that our supply chains are secure, ensuring that our applications are secure and clusters, et cetera.
So yeah, you should use the word supply chain. I think a lot of people, when they hear it, they think that you're talking about the actual supply chain of building hardware. So how would you define software supply chain?
Yeah, software, it's essentially the same thing, right? It's from my genesis to my final product. It's knowing exactly where I started and where I'm ending, and ensuring that everything in the middle of that has been accounted for.
So I assume there's probably a lot of stuff within other stuff that's connected that you're not aware of. So how do you make sure that that's secure and you're not introducing vulnerabilities?
Yeah, there's a few different tools. The ones that I'm familiar with, especially, it's doing DevSecOps pipelines. So what we'll do is we'll pull the content in, and then you go through a build process, and then you scan and release based off of the builds.
Cool. Anything else you'd like to end with?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about OpenShift, go to www.redhat.com. There's also learn.openshift.com, where some free resources to actually get your hands on OpenShift. And then if you want to watch some videos, there's demo.openshift.com as well, that has videos of all kinds of GitOps applications and CI/CD tooling.
Awesome. Jonathan Rickard, thank you so much.
Thank you.